we have chosen to get our data, our Resolute data, day number 1, and build off of that and use that as sort of a healing platform, right? Like a diving board that we're jumping off of. That's our healing platform, is having really good data.
Right.
In the conventional way, you're gluing things together so you don't have that absolute accuracy to start with, but because it's temporary and because it's meant to be thrown away eventually, you can a little bit do your playing at that point, right? And let the implants heal. And then if you have a problem, you can come back and do it again, right? And can build off of that platform, right? And so we're all kind of doing the same thing. We're just doing it at different steps.
Exactly.
And after you've finished healing, the steps that are involved are very similar to the steps that you're going to do, right?
Right.
They're making sure that the bite is dialed in and nailed in. It's getting the data right. And you can get very good, accurate data through traditional means. And what I mean by traditional is non-digital, non-computing based.
Right.
It's more based on your traditional sort of like impressions and things like that. You can get decent data that way. It's a little bit more tedious and a little bit more steps involved to get there, a little bit more work on the dentist part and a little bit more work on the patient's part, but you can still get good data. And then, just like we're talking, once you have that good data, you can start to fill in the holes.
Right.
The problem with that can be, and I think that there's been a bunch of steps in the mainstream conventional way, if you will, where labs have kind of gone leaps and bounds a little bit ahead of where they have been when we were doing the traditional. And so what you're going to get if you work for XYZ hybrid dentistry is you're going to get a plastic printed prototype as well. And then your tweaks are based on similar movements that we make. They'll just make it in a little bit less of social jargon, if you will, right? And they are going to try in serial prototypes as well, or maybe make the tweaks. When I was doing these teeth like this and the labs were outfitted for doing it the conventional way, we would take the good information, and then we would take that good information, we'd make a set of wax rims, and we would take that wax rim and we would try it in the patient and make sure that their lips were supported properly. After that was done, we would send it to the lab, and then they would set denture teeth in them, correct? Right. When they would come back in the denture teeth, they would be a fair representation of what they were. Here's the problem, though. When they were in the patient's mouth too long, it would heat up the wax and would distort, and they would get smashed all over the place. It was very difficult to keep up with. But if you could manage that, you would be able to position them in the right place, and then they could make you the final set. But that's where all of those visits came, was sort of getting that good information. We tell every patient this too in our consults, but we would be managing getting the good information after the implants had healed, right? And that may make sense for some people of why that is a better, safer way to do it. But I can tell you from doing both equally that getting the good information allows us to have a more predictable outcome, therefore less failures, therefore less problems, therefore why wouldn't you make the finished product right away?
Exactly.
And that's been sort of my platform to push along. But we're all doing the same thing. We're getting good foundational data, tweaking in the teeth to where the patient wants them, and getting them a nice set of finished product teeth.
Yeah, exactly. And I also say this in every consult. Both ways, right? You get that same solution, same final product, but it's how you get there. What route do you take? So both solid options. It's just the experience, getting there. And, doing it digitally, doing it, the way we do it, it's just being a little bit more proactive, I think, about things. It's, I use this analogy a lot. It's like, putting your arm in a cast, when it's healing. Why do we put it in a cast? Because we want to guide and, control the healing process, protect what we just, put inside that bone, and, let the tissue really heal perfectly where we want it to heal. So it's just thinking ahead of the game. But again, you can deal with all those steps later on. It's just the outcome may be a little bit more difficult to get to.
And you don't have a ton of exposure to conversion dentures, But this morning we took some off. You took 4 sets, or 4 arches off, and from a different office, and it probably makes more sense today than it ever has before about how different the healing experience is going to be under those versus what we're doing when we're controlling it.
Yeah, when I looked at it, this morning, being hands-on with it, you realize how much of a difference being in
more than hands-on, almost like nose-on. Nose-on with it.
Emphasis on the nose-on. It's just like hygiene-wise, terrible. Like the gums are so angry, and you can just it's.
I hate to say it's terrible. It's all in who's handling it and how painstakingly they've pushed the agenda of what they want done with it. If you don't cover anything about how you keep it clean and stuff, and haven't managed it properly and haven't lined it properly, then it can be a disaster.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong. You have more experience with this, but even the best made temporary set of teeth, acrylic, it's stickier.
It's more porous.
To plaque buildup.
It's more porous. It's not built as well by any means.
Right. So even a super regimented really on it patient, it's not going to be 100%.
Remember, I'm trying to stay process neutral here.
Right.
There is a huge difference,
though.
though.
It's just what I picked up. It's a big difference.